Yo. Today, it's like it's Monday, but it doesn't feel like it should be Monday. The weekend went by so fast, and then you wake up and you hear news that the Democrats passed a IRS. Now, you know, no. It's a climate IRS bill that they're trying to mask as something that could pass as some sort of inflation reduction bill. What about it? I was going through it. I was reading some stuff. What about it is supposed to reduce inflation? And here's the thing. The more I think about it, the less I want to blame Democrats. Because Democrats are going to Democrat. This is what they do, right? They mask their power reaches as something completely different, something beneficial for you. It's only beneficial for them. But they mask it as something you desperately need in the moment, right? So they come out with this Inflation Reduction Act, and it empowers the IRS. It adds taxes to oil and gas while reducing or giving credits to companies that produce electric vehicles in order to push you to buy these $75,000 pieces of machinery that most of us can't afford. I can't afford it. And then on top of that, they're adding 87,000 IRS agents. 57% of which, I'm going to get into all this more, 57% of which aren't there to help make the IRS better, to answer your phone calls whenever you call, to get your documents processed in a timely manner. No, 57% of it is being used for enforcement. I'm not making any of that up. What's up, everybody? How you doing, man? So, am I starting off on a downer note? It is a kind of a downer note, isn't it? But it is true. All of this is absolutely true. Do me a favor, smash that like button if you haven't already, and subscribe. That like button being smashed, like we're getting smashed by the Democrats. At least it's one thing that can go right today. The algorithm playing friendly with us for a change. Oh, it's infuriating, guys. It's infuriating. I was hoping that Joe Manchin would hold out. That Joe Manchin would stay true. But really all you needed to do to get Joe Manchin on your side was just throw some money at him for his stuff. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. Joe Manchin is, you know, we thought that he might have been a principled politician. He's not. He is just a more clever Democrat. That's all it really is. He's just a more clever Democrat. And it breaks my heart. It literally makes me furious because I wanted to like Joe Manchin. I wrote articles where I was like, man, you know, I wish the Democrat Party was more like Joe Manchin. You know, at least he's got some principles. He understands what's good for the nation, what's bad for the nation overall. Nope. Let down. I wanted to be able to trust a Democrat. I don't. Now, it's just completely trashed. How's it going, guys? How are you guys doing? Recently binge-watched Archer. Archer's such a great show. We watch very little TV, but we do like Archer. And Letterkenny. Oh, my God. Letterkenny is one of the best shows ever created. I love Letterkenny. The Republicans voted for this, too. The 50-50 split with the Kamala Harris. If we don't redo the Republican Party, because that is a very good point, Mentats, we need to have a Republican Party that is willing to step up and prove that they're Republicans. They need to strike this down the moment they get in. Will it happen? Probably not. Probably not. Sadly, no. I don't trust Republicans at this rate, but we need to be able to. And I just hate the fact that we can't. 87,000 new IRS agents instead of 87,000 Border Patrol agents. Go figure. That's a point that I've been seeing made all over Twitter and articles. I've made the point myself. It's like we have, and I'm going to get into this further in detail, we have an issue at the border that is beyond out of control. And instead of empowering our border agents, which the Biden administration has done nothing but punish our border agents, we're empowering an agency that doesn't go after illegals and criminals. We're empowering an agency that goes after American citizens. What does that tell you about the Democrats who cooked this bill up? Ben Sass and Don Bacon won't get my vote. Good. Don Bacon went along with this vote. Ben Sass has other issues. We still winning? This doesn't feel like winning. So you're talking about my send-off typically on this show, about how we need to smile because we're winning. I'm going to get into why it's bad, but there's still hope. Don't get me wrong. There's still hope. Well, that's what else was the IRS going to do with all the guns and ammunition that they bought. Give it to the new IRS agents. The 57% of the budget geared toward enforcement agents. Yeah. I'm playing catch up, Mr. Noob, right now. 87,000 funded slots for Sturm Antifa party troops is more like it. Snelson, I hate to say this, but whenever you have a government that is more focused on, like I just said, empowering an agency that is not designed to go after criminals, but designed to go after people, the American people, law-abiding people. You can get audited for no reason at all, and the cost will come out of your pocket. They just infused more power into that agency with 87,000 more people and billions worth of funding. Excuse me. Never trust any politician of any party. They are all corrupt. I think that there are good eggs. I do. I think that there are good eggs. But we're all human and we all make mistakes. I think Republicans tend to make mistakes. And some of them, though, I have to say, it's not necessarily that they're making mistakes. It's that they're either caving out of cowardice or they got bought. I think the assault weapons ban would pass the Senate. God. Good article, Brandon. Thank you so much, Amtrue. Lois Lerner. Yep. IRS going to be the Gestapo. I could see that happening. I could see that happening too. And I was going to say this, and I hate saying this because it sounds sensationalistic, but expect more posts online about people being audited. Expect more videos of IRS agents, like home videos, people filming with cameras popping up on social media, YouTube, Twitter, of IRS agents showing up at people's doors. Expect it. I would love to say that I'm being sensationalistic. I do not see that being that far of a stretch. I really don't. Or Republicans just got threatened. Okay. Here's the thing. If Republicans got threatened, then they need to man up and be like, well, threaten me all you want. I'm not doing nothing. This is wrong. Not happening. Let's go ahead and dive into this stuff because this is probably one of the biggest slaps in your face that the Democrats have ever managed to do in a not since the Affordable Care Act have the Democrats spit in your face and patted themselves on the back for it. Not since then. I want to start off with this. This is from Joe Cunningham. By the way, most of the stuff that I'm going to talk about is on redstate.com. Go to redstate.com if you want to follow along. Also, sign up for our VIP program. You can use promo code MORSE, M-O-R-S-E, on sign up. Get you a discount. Really helps us out. And we're going to need more help than ever. Why is no one using the Inflation Reduction Act's actual name? As of yesterday, the Inflation Reduction Act passed the Senate in a 50-50 vote with Vice President Kamala Harris as the tiebreaker, cackler and vice chief. The Senate passed a massive spending bill under reconciliation rules. The bill will bring a ton of new deficit spending, create massive handouts for climate change initiatives, and add tens of thousands of new IRS agents, excuse me, folks, I'm tripping all over my tongue, to harass lower and middle class taxpayers. So the two things that this bill does, it's supposed to reduce inflation, but I've yet to understand or see. And as I'm about to dive in here into like the nitty gritty, there's nothing in there that really makes it look like it's for inflation in any way, shape, or form. It almost has nothing to do with it. And it's bizarre to me. It's bizarre to me that even we had Republicans, not just Republicans voting for it, but you have people on Twitter, voters, who are defending this left and right as if they know exactly what's in this bill and how it's going to help us all. There's nothing in here that I can see that helps us with inflation. But curiously enough, reporters and politicians praising the passage of the bill aren't actually mentioning the name of the bill, the Inflation Reduction Act. I mentioned this on Saturday when CNN's John Harwood chastised Senator Marco Rubio for calling the bill a garbage bill, but Harwood isn't the only one. And I like the fact that Democrats are kind of being honest. We passed the biggest climate bill that any country has ever passed. They're proud of this thing. It is the reason I came to the Senate. The fight goes on. But for the first time, the American government is taking action that is equal to this movement. Why is he concerned about a climate bill when it's supposed to be about an inflation bill? Why is he celebrating a climate bill? This is about inflation. Seems a little strange. It's done. The Senate passed the Dem climate and healthcare bill, 50-50. Again, it's the inflation bill. The Democrats are telling you what this was really about. They're telling you. They're saying it straight up. You just have to pay attention to what they're saying. With VP Harris casting the tiebreaker, being long and winding road capped by grueling 15 hours of votes on amendments, Dems stuck together to the end. Al Gore, it's been a long time coming, but the Senate has finally advanced transformative climate legislation. Again, thought it was inflation legislation. Thank you to Senators Schumer and Manchin, and to every senator who fought to ensure that climate action was a priority in this bill that is called the Inflation Reduction Act. Now to the House and to the President's desk. Joe points out that this is not a inflation reduction bill at all. This was never about reducing inflation. The Democrats straight up lied to you. They put a mask on a bill that was primarily about about climate change policies and empowering the government, specifically the deep state. Now they can use these agents, these enforcement agents, 57% of the budget, remember, geared toward enforcement agents. They can use them to harass you, to come down on you. And as you're going to see, they're going to try to make it sound like it's not, these agents aren't coming for you. But as one Democrat senator kind of let slip, it is about you. It is. This is from the Tax Foundation. Details and analysis of the Senate Inflation Reduction Act tax provisions. I wanted to dive into this bill with you guys so that we can all better understand it. And as you're going to see, it's not going to be good. Last week's Democrat-sponsored Inflation Reduction Act, IRA. Weird that it's the same. So like the same as a terrorist organization out in the UK. Successor to the House-passed Build Back Better Act of late 2021. So a lot of people are saying that this is Build Back Better version 2. Has been touted by President Biden to, among other things, help reduce the country's crippling inflation. Using the Tax Foundation's general equilibrium model, we estimate that the Inflation Reduction Act would reduce long-run economic output by 0.1% and eliminate 30,000 full-time equivalent jobs in the United States. It would also reduce average after-tax incomes for taxpayers across every income quintile over the long run. So not only is it a job killer, it's going to reduce the amount of money that we put up, and any kind of tax return that you were hoping to get, it's going to reduce the money that you're going to get back from the government during tax season. If you were lucky enough to be one of those people who actually gets a tax return. By reducing long-run economic growth, this bill may actually worsen inflation by constraining the productive capacity of the economy. Our analysis contains estimates of the budgetary, economic, and distributional impacts of the Inflation Reduction Act as specified in bill text provided on July 27th. Using the general equilibrium model, we estimate that the tax provisions, IRS enforcement, and drug pricing provisions in the bill would increase federal revenues by about $656 billion over the budget window before accounting for $352 billion in expanded tax credits for individuals and businesses, resulting in a net revenue increase of about $304 billion from 2022 to 2031. Excluding the anticipated revenue from increased tax compliance to the drug price provisions, the bill will lose about $126 billion in revenue over the budget window. So we're losing GDP. Less than 0.05% gain in GDP. Capital stock, minus 0.3. Wage rate, 0.1 minus. Full-time equivalent jobs, we're losing 30,000. It's kind of crazy, but this is exactly kind of what Democrats, in my honest opinion, think is going to help in the long run for some reason. The more taxes they think that they get from people, the more that they can do on the government level, which they feel the government is how, a strong government is how you get to utopia. I have never seen that in the history of the world. The stronger a government gets, the more prosperous the people are. I've never seen it. I've seen the exact opposite. The updated draft legislation of the Inflation Reduction Act would include the following major changes, effective beginning after December 31st, 2022, unless otherwise noted. Interesting time. Interesting date for these to become active. After November. After the election. I wonder why. Individual income taxes extends the required holding period for carried interest to be taxed as a long-term capital gain from 3 years to 5 years for taxpayers with an adjusted gross income equal to or greater than $400,000. Extends the expanded health insurance premium tax credit provided in the American Rescue Plan Act, including allowing higher income householders to qualify for the credits and boosting the subsidy for lower income households through the end of 2025. Corporate and international taxes imposes a 15% maximum tax on corporate book income for corporations with profits over $1 billion effective for tax years beginning after December 31st, 2022. By the way, this stuff up here sounds like it's improving things. I do not trust a government agency that empowers itself and then decides to help. Not that much. Now, here's the other thing I wanted to show you. The imposes 15% maximum or minimum tax on corporate book income for corporations with profits over $1 billion. I swear Democrats have never taken an econ class in their entire life. If you put taxes on the rich, this is the way it's always been. You put taxes on the rich, you tax corporations, you make it cost more to operate. Those operating costs are going to be passed down to the consumer, you and me. Okay, so if you have a multi-billion-dollar bread business, you are a bread company, and you make that is Mrs. Baird's. You ship out these big, huge crates and trucks and stuff full of bread. They go to markets all over the nation. and they have to pay now more in taxes, who do you think is going to pay more for bread? Do you think it's going to be them, or is it going to be you? Because they have to stay afloat. They have to pay their employees. They have to pay the fees, the costs for shipping, all those operational fees. You are the one who pays that, not them. Major corporations, when it comes to tax hikes, it's like they think that, putting these regulations on major corporations is really going to stick it to them. But it always comes down to you paying more in the long run, not them. You. They'll balance their books. Modifies, extends, and creates a variety of tax credits for green energy and other efforts primarily through 2031 and 2033. Solyndra. Remember Solyndra? They try to infuse these companies with cash. Your cash, by the way. Your taxpayer dollars. And it doesn't get up to snuff. It never has. These companies just fall short because the amount of energy that we need as a nation is not going to be met by green energy. It's just, it can't. It can work as a slight booster, but it's not going to take the place of natural gas, coal, nuclear. It can't hold up. Raises the Superfund tax on crude oil and imported petroleum to 16.4 cents per barrel. So now your fuel is going to cost more. Fuel and oil are going up. That's all going to cost more now. In a time where you're already suffering at the pump. They're going to make it more expensive. Again, you're going to eat the cost. Don't mistake this as a blow against the oil company. You're going to eat the cost. They mix that with the green energy. They're talking about companies that put out electric vehicles and stuff. What they're trying to do is make it too much of a pain for you to go get gas at the pump. So eventually you'll start looking at these electric vehicles and going like, well, it'd be a lot cheaper for me if I just got an electric vehicle. Because, despite the fact that these gas guzzling cars are cheaper, the price at the pump, it's super expensive. The difference of just buying one electric vehicle and just charging it at home, I could save a lot of money on gas. That's the conversation they want you to have at your dinner table or inside your head. That's the climate portion. They're trying to get you to buy a $75,000 electric vehicle that you can't afford so that they can pat themselves on the back and say, look at how good we did for the environment. Environmental issues, which, by the way, most of them are fake. Most of them are fake. And if they actually did care about the environment, do you honest to God think that they would be wiping out miles and miles of land to install windmill farms? I'm sorry, just wind farms and destroying the land to make solar farms? Do you think that all these batteries that go into these electric vehicles, do you think that we're going to be able to just make them appear out of nowhere? No, the materials that are needed to make these cars, for these batteries for these cars, they come from other countries like China, like Russia, like Africa. So we're going to be spending even more money to build these batteries so that we can build these cars. Expands IRS enforcement funding by about $80 billion over the course of a decade. $80 billion. They're just throwing that money around like these billions of dollars. They just sent a whole bunch of billions to Ukraine because, apparently, why not? It's the cool thing to do is to support Ukraine, right? But instead of, again, sending $80 billion and imposes, let me go one thing at a time. $80 billion to something like Border Patrol agencies. so that it could stop what is coming across the nation from our southern border, including criminals, drugs, sex traffickers. Our fentanyl problem is out of control. I'm going to get into that a little bit more. But instead of doing that, they're sending it on down to the IRS. Once again, not an agency that stops criminals at the border, but goes after the United States citizens. Law-abiding. That's where they're directing billions of dollars. Imposes a 95% excise tax penalty on drug manufacturers to lower drug prices. How? 95% excise tax penalty. Increases the research and development tax. Look, I'm all about going after Big Pharma. Don't get me wrong. Increases the research and development tax credit amount that can be claimed against payroll taxes for small businesses by $250,000. I mean, cool. Cool. If that's one of the ways that it helps, then that's fine. While the latest proposal steers clear of some of the major tax rate increases contained in the House-passed Build Back Better Act, this proposal would raise taxes on work and investment, disincentivizing productive activity. We estimate the Inflation Reduction Act would reduce long-run GDP by about 0.1%. The bill would increase long-run American incomes as measured by gross national product or GNP by less than 0.05%. Which is entirely driven by the bill's reduction in the budget deficit over the long run. The bill would reduce the capital stock by about 0.3% and wages by about 0.1%. So in an inflationary economy right now, or a hyperinflated economy, your wages are going to go down. Also, your price at the pump is going to go up. And, now they're taxing billion-dollar businesses, according to them, which means you're going to be paying more for products as well. They're running you into the ground while eliminating about 30,000 full-time equivalent jobs. The proposed 15% minimum tax on corporate book income is the most economically damaging provision in the bill, reducing the GDP by 0.1% and costing about 23,000 jobs. The tax increase on carried interest also eliminates about 5,000 jobs. For purposes of estimating the bill's impact on federal budget deficits, interest payments, and resulting changes in GNP, we have estimated about $151 billion of additional spending over the budget window of 2022 to 2031, in addition to scored tax provisions. We estimate that the bill would result in a $178 billion reduction in the deficit, including interest payments, during the first decade, and continue to reduce deficits thereafter, leading to a decrease in payments to foreign owners of the national debt and a 0.1% increase in long-run GNP. We treat the non-tax outlays as transfer payments with no associated impact on the economic long run. Not a good deal. Not a good deal. I think that there's a good reason why they made it so that this doesn't really go into effect until after November. For two reasons. One, they want the Republicans, they're daring the Republicans to take off something this big, to vote against it, strike it down. Not that they don't have the power to do it. I mean, they can do it. I mean, you'll notice that they neutered the Affordable Care Act. They could neuter this too, but what I would like to see is a complete wipeout. This bill needs to die. Let's focus on the IRS for a second. $15% minimum tech. Yeah, sorry, my bad. Recession, how about depression? Yeah. I took an econ class. It's distinctly possible that they did and were sold the bill of lies that high debt is a good thing, just as I was. Ugh. They just want power over everything. As long as they are fine, they don't care. Atlas shrugged, anyone? Except there is nowhere to go. Green energy or green dollars. Thanks, Joe in Congress, you bleeping holes. You bleeping bleep holes. I got popcorn, Mr. Noob. Been watching this coming for years. I knew, you know what's, I thought that they were going to try something like this before November. I thought that they were going to try something. I thought that they were going to like throw a temper tantrum and try to pass some outrageous bill and defy Republicans to vote against it. Don Seeley, thank you so much for the sub. I just didn't think it would pass. I really didn't, because Joe Manchin had said that he was not going to vote for a big spending bill. He wasn't going to. Joe Manchin's just as big a liar as everybody else. Abolish the EPA, ATF, Department of Education, cut the Pentagon staff in half. I could go on. Oh, wait, the CDC has got to go first. Dude, if I could be dictator for a week, I would immediately close all these government agencies. And it would all be state-run. Like, on the state level, I mean. Like, if you want to have that kind of nonsense on that level, on the state level, then you go for it. Your people can vote that in. But on the federal level, nah, bro. Nah, bro. Get rid of it. Get rid of it all. The fact that we have it doesn't make sense to me anyway. This whole federal government with these bureaucracies and the departments never made sense to me anyway. The IRS at least makes a little bit of sense, but not in the way that it exists right now. You know, a federal government paying taxes, and I'm sure there's economists out there who can come up with a much better idea than I can. But I mean, like, I think that the IRS should be neutered. And Ted Cruz not long ago said that, you know, we have like, it almost looks like the IRS rules, the tax rules is like a book that's this big. And he's like, we can do it so that it just, basically it's like filling out the back of a postcard. And that's about as complicated as the IRS should be. And I'm all for that, you know. But like, a lot of these departments don't make sense. The fact that the federal government believes that it can just one size fits all with all of these departments and these rules in these departments and these unelected officials, it never made sense to me. Big government does not make any logical sense, especially in a country as big as America, where you have a whole bunch of different states filled with people whose cultures are completely different from a state even just next door. The same people who live in Texas, the values and the lifestyles and stuff that they have here in Texas versus what they have in New York is night and day. Montana and Arizona don't act very much alike. So to have all these agencies just decide how things are going to be run across the nation does not work. It makes no logical sense. Let states decide how their environmental policies are going to be. If California wants to be complete morons about their energy, then fine. That's fine. Don't let it affect Texas or Montana. Let the states deal with each other as far as free market, you know, buying and selling of energy. And you know what? If honestly, I'm not saying that every state has a good oil deposit, but at the same time, I mean, like, you know, if they need oil, let them buy it from Texas. Let them buy it from Montana. Let them buy it from a state that's actually producing, and let them have that economic exchange. You know, if California wants to have nothing but wind farms and solar farms, and they just want to go fully green, then fine, let them go fully green. But stop imposing that nonsense on the people in the Midwest. Stop. You know, the policies that work for Florida don't necessarily work for Washington. It makes no freaking sense. It never has. And yet we still have these people coming up here and being like, you know, we're going to save this world, everyone needs to follow the same exact rules. No, dude, it's not how it works. You have to give the Dems credit for one thing. When they can jam an agenda item through, even by a razor-thin margin, they do it. Oh, yeah. The GOP is great about doing nothing. Well, because, like, for a long time, the GOP, and I mean, they're still kind of guilty of it because we still have remnants and holdouts, i.e. Liz Cheney. They had this turn the other cheek mentality. And they wanted to play fair, and they wanted to be seen as like the adults in the room. But it's like, I'm sorry, like, instead of coming off as the adults in the room, the GOP kind of made themselves seem more like a parent that just lets their kid throw a temper tantrum and doesn't do anything about it, so the kid just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. The GOP were enablers. And they still, as we can see, kind of are. Any GOP member who voted for this needs to go. They got to go. Tired of this. I'm tired of it. Oh, they think, oh, no, I'm sure you're correct. The Dems think that they just scored a knockout victory. And in a way, they kind of did. Let's reduce the GDP. Sounds good. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. What's up, Half-Baked? How you doing, man? You need to let that beard grow so we can braid our beards into each other. You want to be connected at the beard? We can have our like little Viking beards going on. My chicken wings, definitely not Nightbot or today's news. Oh, that sounds good. I could go for some chicken wings. Manchin is getting a pipeline in West Virginia, or that is what I heard anyway. That's one of the reasons, one of the ways he got paid off. He got a pipeline in Virginia, right? Going through his state. That's one of the ways he got paid off. You guys hear about the silencer bill that passed? It all has to do with interstate commerce. No, I didn't hear about that. Tweet it to me. Or send me a DM in my Twitter, @TheBrandonMorse. I'm not here to save the world. I am sure the world will be just fine no matter what I do. Let's hope. Don Seeley, his wife is federal co-chair of the Appalachian Regional Commission. They are getting close to $1 billion that she will control to a large extent. Damn. Really? Manchin's wife? Yeah. Dude, I'm so over it, man. I'm so over these freaking corrupt politicians. It's all about them at the end of the day and what they can get out of it. I'm here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. Let's go ahead and read this. Dems poised to make IRS larger than Pentagon, State Department, FBI, and Border Patrol combined. This is from the Washington Free Beacon. Democrats have their way. One of the most detested federal agencies. It's not just detested, it's feared. I was reading something not long ago. I think Crowder even talked about it today. Most people are afraid of being audited more than they are afraid of getting cancer. It's freaking crazy. That's how much the IRS makes people. I hate the I get into a fight every year with the IRS, I swear. And you hear a lot of libertarians say taxation is theft. And I can't disagree. Especially the way it is right now. If you work for yourself in the United States of America, they don't encourage it. They don't. The whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps thing, that ain't happening in the United States of America anymore. They punish you for not working for a big corporation or trying to do something for yourself. They punish you. The amount of taxes that you pay is, if you are self-employed, is astronomical. And I'm sure many of you know this. I'm sure many of you have had this experience with the IRS where you basically have to give up more than you can actually afford to the IRS. You put it aside every year, and then you just give them this huge lump sum that makes up a solid portion of your income. Under the Inflation Reduction Act negotiated by Senator Joe Manchin, and apparently his $1 billion plus thing with his wife, the agency would receive $80 billion in funding to hire as many 87,000 additional employees. The increase would more than double the size of the IRS workforce, which currently has 78,661 full-time staffers, according to federal data. I gotta wonder what their workday looks like over there, all these nearly 79,000 people. It's like it amazes me how quickly they will take your money. But if you ask them to do anything, it takes them weeks. The additional IRS funding is integral to the Democrats' reconciliation package. A Congressional Budget Office analysis found the hiring of new IRS agents would result in more than $200 billion in additional revenue for the federal government over the next decade. More than half of that funding is specifically earmarked for enforcement, meaning tax audits and other responsibilities such as digital asset monitoring. That would make the IRS one of the largest federal agencies. The Pentagon houses roughly 27,000 employees, according to the Defense Department, while a human resource fact sheet says the State Department employs just over 77,243 staff. The FBI employs approximately 35,000 people, according to the agency's website, and Customs and Border Protection says it employs 19,536 Border Patrol agents. That is sad. That is super sad. Do you know how big the southern border is? How massive that thing is? And we only have 19.5 thousand people guarding it? Nah. The money allocated to the IRS would increase the agency's budget by more than 600%. In 2021, the IRS received $12.6 billion. Although Democrats say the hiring of additional IRS agents will help root out tax cheats and other criminals, federal tax revenues have steadily risen over the past several decades. Federal tax receipts are projected to hit $5.7 trillion in 2027, up from just over $4 trillion last year without additional IRS agents. By the way, when they say, they're looking for criminals and tax cheats, in order to do that, they audit random people. And it's not really necessarily like a targeted thing. It's almost like they pick it out of a hat. And being audited can cost you thousands of dollars. Thousands. And you could be anybody. You could be the CEO of a corporation, or you could just be some waitress at Texas Roadhouse, man. Doesn't matter. It'll cost you way more than you can afford, probably. There are far more poor and middle-class people in the United States than there are super rich people. So the people who are audited are, it's like it's life-destroying sometimes. But the roughly $450 billion in new spending proposed by Democrats requires new funding mechanisms. Some of the new spending includes $161 billion for clean electricity tax credits and $64 billion for new Affordable Care Act subsidies. The majority of new revenue from IRS audits and scrutiny. Did we actually get affordable care from the Affordable Care Act? Because I, from what I read and what I experienced, that's a big no. And I swear, the Affordable Care Act did for healthcare what I'm willing to bet this Inflation Reduction Act is going to do for inflation. The majority of new revenue from IRS audits and scrutiny will come from those making less than $200,000 a year. According to a study from Nonpartisan Joint Committee on Taxation, the committee found that just 4 to 9% of money raised will come from those making more than $500,000, contrary to Democrats' claims that the new IRS agents are necessary to target millionaires and billionaires who hide income. See, they're coming after you. Senate Republicans argue that roughly $45 billion of the bill puts towards hiring IRS agents could be better spent on other priorities, such as helping students rebound from the learning loss suffered from COVID school closures. Fair. A proposal by Senator Tim Scott would amend the spending bill to put the IRS money towards education tax credits. When faced with the decision to spend $45 billion on America's largest revenue collection agency or give it back to the parents to help them get their kids the help they need, the Senate needs to choose the latter option every single time. Again, this is not them trying to help you. There is no helping you if the thing that they're empowering is designed to go after you. I want to also point this out because this made your boy mad. Democrat senator tells Americans they don't need to fear new IRS agents if they comply. Once again, this is up at redstate.com. This is one of those moments where I'm actually really listening to Democrats. Because again, if you really listen to Democrats, they will tell you what their plans are and what their real intent is. If you really listen to them. Many have naturally expressed fear that the government is effectively preparing an army to go after the American people. This fear was relayed to Democrat Senator Ben Cardin of Maryland, who appeared on Fox News Sunday to chat with host Mike Emanuel. Emanuel mentioned that thousands of IRS agents being hired is going to, quote, scare the heck out of millions of Americans. Cardin's response does absolutely nothing to squash those fears. Millions of Americans aren't, I'm going to let him speak.
There, can you understand how 87,000 new IRS agents would scare the heck out of millions of Americans?
Well, millions of Americans aren't going to be impacted by that other than getting better service from the IRS, having their telephone answered, getting the questions they need in order to comply with our tax laws.
Very little of that money is actually going to the IRS to be more helpful for you so that your phone calls actually do get answered and that documents and taxes do get filed in an appropriately timed manner. Again, 57% of it is going toward enforcement. I want you to keep that in mind when he says this.
The auditing is going to be focused on those of high income, the large corporations, etc. So,
one more time. If you put taxes on the rich are just going to impose those costs on you. Corporations and billionaires and all that stuff, they're going to balance their books. You're not going to stand a chance. One way or another, you're paying for it. Period. Listen carefully.
There's no reason to be fearful. And if you have paid your taxes and if you comply with our laws, you should want to make sure everyone else does that.
There, can you understand?
One more time. Just one more time.
To be fearful. And if you have paid your taxes and if you comply with our laws, you should want to make sure everyone else does that.
How many times have you guys heard a phrase like from a government official that goes something like this? If you got nothing to hide, then you don't need to worry. I've never heard anything like that and it not come off as a threat. This man is trying to reassure us that, hey, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're only going after the rich, which won't help anyway. I mean, the amount of taxes that they can squeeze from rich people isn't going to cover the billions worth of dollars that we need. Okay? But I've never, ever heard a government official say something like that when it's not on the verge or on the back of some new law that threatens you. Well, I mean, if you pay your taxes, you don't have to worry about it. Why would he add that? Why would he feel like he needs to add that if they're only going after the rich and wealthy? Because he's apparently in this segment addressing the American people, trying to put them at ease. Don't worry, we're only going after billionaires. We're only going after the rich. You're fine. Besides, pay your taxes and you won't have anything to worry about. Thought you were only going after the billionaires. Pay your taxes. And we won't come after you. You don't have nothing to worry about. Nothing to fear from us. Just comply. Comply with the rules and regulations, and you'll be fine. No one will touch you. Again, the billionaires, the taxes they squeeze from billionaires ain't going to be enough. They're going to have to come after the middle class. They're going to have to come after the poor. They're going to have to come after all of us. 87,000 new employees at the IRS, and they're just going after the rich? Nah, bro. I'm not the smartest man in the room by any measure, but 87,000, that seems like an army. That's an army. What do you do with an army? An army's meant for destruction, man. You've just assembled a government army for an organization, for a branch of the government that is specifically designed to squeeze money from the people. Infused it with $80 billion over the next decade and hired 87,000 people. You're going to sit here and try to convince me that they're not there specific. And enforcement, 80, these are enforcement agents, guys. You're going to sit here and convince me that they're not 87,000 people are just going to show up to what? Like thousands of people are going to show up to a billionaire's door. They're going to walk in there by the thousands into a corporation? Is that what you're telling me? How many corporations are there in America that they need 87,000 people to walk in? These agents, these enforcement agents, how many do they honestly think that we're buying that nonsense? Are they assigning an agent to every corporation? To every rich person in America who makes over $1 million? Is that what you're telling me? Nah, man. Nah. It was a threat. It was more of a threat than a reassurance. He's a Democrat. Obey the rules, comply with what I tell you to do, and you won't get hurt. House Minority Whip John Thune, he noted this. Yet 4% of the $80 billion is going to taxpayer services. 4%. That's it. Towards actually the people who interact with us in order to help us get our stuff done. 57% goes to enforcement so that the IRS can spend more time harassing taxpayers around this country. It's pretty obvious. They are even buying a fleet of tax collectors' cars. Yep, I heard that too. What's up, Joey Z? Lie, BS, socialist pandering, lie. Absolutely it is. This is nonsense, all of it. What these people are telling you is not meant to... It's covering a truth. It's covering a hard truth. Okay, these people they need money. They want more money for the government, which they feel is going to lead the way to a utopia. It's the way they've always been. And the Democrats have always been authoritarians because they feel their authoritarianism is a good means to an end. Authoritarians love to control everything. They want to put you in lockdowns. They want to make you wear masks. They want to force you to get injections. This is authoritarian moves, all right? But if you really want to strike at the heart of the American people and bring them under control, you get a firm grip on their wallet. Like I said, I guarantee you that if Republicans do not strike this down the moment that they gain power in the Senate and the in the Senate and the House, you can expect there to be more videos on Twitter, Facebook. Facebook will probably take them down. YouTube, TikTok, all these places with IRS agents showing up at your door, at just random people's door, middle class, poor, not the rich. They're going to show up at the door asking questions. You're going to hear more stories than ever about audits. And not from millionaires, not for billionaires, not for corporations. You and me. That's definitely going to increase. Wait for it. Just wait for it. I'm a firm believer that shall not infringe going to buy a Canon when I move to Tennessee. Why? I just want one. Good, get it. Wasn't there a study a decade or two ago that found certain government employees are often spend their time physically daydreaming of the breasts of the beast with two backs via visual stimuli? Yeah, they did. They did. I'm pretty sure many government employees do not actually do their job. They don't need if the government. How many people did they say currently work at the IRS? Some like god awful number. State Department employees 77, FBI 35. It's like some ungodly number. Currently 78,661 people who currently work at the IRS. Do you think that 77.6 thousand people, if they were actually doing what they needed to do, that we would have a government that is as slow as it is? Because I wouldn't. You're a government employee. I mean, you pretty much do whatever you want. You know? I'm willing to bet that if you were to start treating the public sector like the private sector, oh my God. Can you imagine the amount of people that would be laid off, that would be fired, the quotas that would need to be met? You know? Oh, God. It would be a revolution in government. Given that can't happen, it'll never happen, but 19 plus 87 equals 106K. They should send them to the Border Patrol. Oh, yeah. Reality is this is going to suck big time if they comply. Yep. No, it's not. I'm gonna get into this in a second because I want to kind of finish off on showing you guys something about the Democrat Party that you already probably know, but I want to make clear. I'm sure there are some clowns that will believe this shit. Oh yeah. Oh, dude, Joey. So I've been on Twitter and I've been looking at the reactions. People will say, you know, because it was trending on Twitter, and I was looking at the trending, and people were arguing naturally, and you would see these random, and it's very random because most of the people are pissed about it. Most people are absolutely pissed about all of this. They don't trust the government. They shouldn't trust the government. They think they see this IRS infusion of power as something very scary and horrible. Every now and again, you have these people who are just mind-numbingly stupid, talking about how, well, this is going to be really great for our economy. They don't explain how, but then they say something along the lines of, you're just a Trumpist, or, you know, you're GOP pedophile or something like that, and you're just mad because they're going to go after the rich. That's their entire argument. Well, you're just mad because they're going after the rich. It's like, I do not understand how that kind of logic can just exist for Democrats everywhere. Do you think that there are a bunch of poor people who are just willing to give their lives for the rich? Or that everyone in the Republican Party who votes Republican or is a conservative in particular is just filthy rich? Like we're all just rolling in dough? Like what kind of world do these people live in? Where they think that a supercharged, superpowered IRS is a good thing. What world do they live in? How brainwashed do you have to be? But I mean, these people will go to the mat for anything that the Democrats do. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, it's like they just... It kind of reminds me of like an abusive relationship where, you know, at some point in time, you just kind of start to accept the abuse and you know, guaranteed if it's like, you know, the man beats his wife and then the police come arrest him. And as he's being dragged away, the wife is like, no, don't take him. I love him. That's Democrats right now. The many Democrat voters just like, yep. Yeah. I love the Democrat Party. Whip me again, daddy. Tax me harder, daddy. It's freaking weird, bro. I don't understand the logic. I really don't. I think there are some people who just really get off on being oppressed. Who get off on having a boot on their neck. Like it's, you know what, man? Fine, whatever. But just keep it in your own bedroom. Stop trying to make everyone else engage in your sick pleasures. Good God. The IRS is going to show up in the inner city Chicago trying to audit the gangbang. Guaranteed they will not see a one damn agent there. 78 plus 87 equals 165 agents. Wonder if the IRS has collected from AOC and other politicians they have failed to pay tax. Of course not. You think they're going to go after them, anybody who would be remotely useful to them? Of course not. The IRS isn't there to help the nation have cash and collect money and taxpayers. Like, it's not there to help anything. It's a weapon. And it has been for a long time. Do y'all remember when the IRS was used to tackle the Tea Party? Like, it was directly targeting the Tea Party? Do y'all remember that? It was years ago, but it was true. They found out that they were doing that. They were directly attacking the Tea Party. Tea Party organizations, Tea Party members. They were directly attacking them. The IRS is an amazing weapon if you have the will to use it. If you have the will to wield it, it's an amazing weapon. You can shut people down, ruin them, scare them into compliance. You attack people's wallet, man, you rule them effectively. You control their purse. You got them by the figurative balls. What if the IRS is collected from I already read that. Mr. Noob, they can't break the two-tier justice system since they run it. Everyone else is it. Yeah, exactly. Again, it's a weapon. I'm still waiting for Al Sharpton to pay his tax bill. Yeah, good luck. They are so delusional, and their arguments never have facts, and they are all from the same talking points. It's kind of we talked about this the other day. You know, there are think tanks out there who effectively fashion talking points for the left to follow. And they've been doing it for decades and decades and decades. It was really, 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 really noticeable during the Obama administration, because you would have these news organizations, news programs, all repeating the exact same line, you know, over and over and over again. CNN, MSNBC, all the alphabet networks, all of it. They would all be repeating the same exact phrase. And you like, people, like, it took them a while to catch on, but like, it was kind of weird. And then as it turned out, there was a reason for that, is because there were organizations in the background, like Media Matters for America, that were actually issuing these talking points out for Democrats to follow, Democrats, politicians. Excuse me. All these people. So it's not, it's not tinfoil hat to say that they have marching orders or talking points that they all have to follow from I mean, it's there. They have researchers, they have organizations whose entire job it is to fashion talking points for the left to make their product sound better than it actually is. You know, something that you might want to buy. They're salesmen. They have an entire organizations dedicated to message fashioning. It's what they do. They're effectively ad companies for Democrats. So, yeah, you're not crazy. The thing that I love, though, is that, like, you know, it was very controlled for a long time, and then along comes the internet. And it really never got too bad until the invention of social media. The social media allowed Democrats at the bottom, like, not, when I say Democrat, I mean Democrat voters, you know. TikTok came along, Twitter, all these people, to spew their nonsense without that filter, you know. And now we have a really good idea of where the Democrat Party is going based on what their voters and what their really huge fans say, without the guidance of, you know, Media Matters, without, you know, the mask put over them by people like, you know, the anchors at CNN. You know, it's kind of cool. The internet might be a little bit of a curse, but man, it also brought a blessing. Money and power, they truly think that makes the world go round. LOL, only 3 things certain in life: death, taxes, and laundry. Until we get back to a nation of naked people like we should be. Am I right? Who's with me? Nudists? I'm too modest. I'd get too scared. They should be a Twitter hashtag out there for fools. Tax me harder, daddy. Tax me harder, daddy. That's the unofficial Democrat motto. Tax me harder, daddy. The Tea Party was child's play compared to what they're gearing up for. Man, I say this within legal bounds. If we have another Tea Party, and we see another election where we have a Republican Party that is revamped once again, I wouldn't complain. And Joey, if you're right, and I hope you are, you know, we need a Republican Party that doesn't cave to this kind of stuff and fights back. There used to be complaints that you know, we were the party of no, and that was like a bad thing about us. We're the party of no. Sometimes being the party of no is absolutely necessary. I wanted to play this because I love John Kennedy.
Senator Manchin's and Senator Schumer's massive tax and spending bill has unfortunately, in my judgment, now passed. Because of inflation, Louisianians are really getting good at barely getting by, and that's true for most Americans too. As a result of Senator Manchin's bill, and I hope I'm wrong in this, but I predict that Joe-flation, as some people call it,
Joe-flation,
will now refer to Joe Manchin, not President Biden. For example, Senator Manchin's bill raises taxes on oil and gas. Now, when you tax something, you get less of it, which causes prices to rise. Senator Manchin's message seems to be, since you can't afford gas because of my bill, go buy a $75,000 electric vehicle. That's not going to work in Louisiana. That's not going to work across the board.
Not going to work anywhere.
Number two, according to the Nonpartisan Joint Tax Committee, which doesn't take sides, it's not Republican or Democrat, the burden of Senator Manchin's bill will fall on everyone, everyone and their taxes, not just people making more than $400,000 a year, everyone. So most Americans, if not all Americans, are now going to have even less money to spend as prices continue to rise. Point three, Senator Manchin's bill raises taxes on businesses, especially manufacturers. Most people understand this. Corporations don't pay taxes. People do. And those taxes, when they're increased, are passed on in higher prices, lower wages, lower stock prices, and lower 401k balances. It takes a special kind of stupid, in my judgment, to raise taxes during both a recession and inflation. That's called stagflation.
That's why I love this guy.
Which is what we have right now as a result of President Biden's policies. Look, I'm not saying that Senator Manchin intentionally wants to hurt people. I'm not saying that he intentionally wants to have even more people living in a tent behind Whataburger. But that's going to be the result of this bill. I hope I'm wrong, but I think I'm right. This bill is Tier 1 moronic.
Tier 1 moronic. It takes a special kind of stupid. He is 100% correct. This is not going to help. This is not going to help anything. We're already in the middle of a financial crisis, and here they are burdening us with higher oil prices, with more taxes, with IRS harassers coming to your door. I'm going to read this to you guys because I want to leave off on this note. If you wanted to destroy America, you do exactly what Democrats are doing. It almost seems intentional. I'm just going to go ahead and read this out in its entirety. We're amidst a massive inflation hike, open borders, energy issues, and horrible trade policies. The cost of living has risen to red alert levels, and Americans all over the nation are struggling. And to make matters worse, the weight is only getting heavier. There are many things that could be done on a federal level to ease the burden, but the federal government isn't interested in doing any of those things. In fact, they're doing the exact opposite and putting even more pressure on the American people with the passage of the falsely named the Inflation Reduction Act. As the American people worry about being able to put gas in their cars, the Inflation Reduction Act throws billions at certain electric car companies while taxing oil and gas. The idea is to push electric vehicles on the public through intense pressure. But the issue is that these electric vehicles are still costly, far more expensive than many Americans in the lower and middle class can afford, including me. I can't just go out and buy one of these. That matters not a lick to Democrats who are enjoying the sensation of a circle back-patting session. To make matters worse, Democrats are hiring 87,000 new IRS agents in order to help the American people. A good way to help the American people would be to reduce taxes by leaps and bounds and then minimize the power of the IRS so that the rules and regulations Americans have to follow in order to be tax compliant doesn't look like an encyclopedia. To be clear, the government just passed a bill to use your taxpayer dollars to hire an army of government agents that will milk you for more tax dollars. This will be absolutely crushing to the American people. If Democrats really wanted to help the American people, they'd hire 87,000 new border agents to help secure the poor southern border. Despite the spike in crime and burden on our system, the left continues to allow a stream of thousands of migrants through, bringing them complications from top to bottom. For instance, the fentanyl crisis is spiraling out of control, with overdoses now having increased by 800% since 2020. 800%. That's over 100,000 deaths due to the drug, which is streaming across our southern border like a river. With that many dead, you would think the federal government would declare a crisis. They're certainly willing to over a non-fatal disease that affects the gay community in the 98th percentile, but not this, monkeypox. They're willing to go ham and just freak out over monkeypox, a non-fatal disease that is primarily in the 98th percentile, only affecting people who are doing each other in the gay community. You know, you skip out on the butt sex, there's a strong chance that you're not going to get monkeypox. Very, very, very strong chance that you're not going to get monkeypox. But they're willing to declare this a national emergency. 100,000 deaths due to drug, a fentanyl that is streaming across. Starts in China, by the way. Fentanyl comes from China, and then they bring it into Mexico, or the countries below our southern border. They bring it up through our porous border, spread it throughout the United States. 100,000 dead. 800% increase since 2020 in fatal overdoses. They're not declaring a crisis. They're not trying to shut down the border. They're not trying to go after this issue really in any way. They're just letting it happen. Moreover, if the federal government really was looking for a way to help the American people, they'd work hard on releasing oil and gas companies from the mountains of red tape they have to go through in order to begin producing domestically. Instead, Biden's government is content to claim they're doing everything they can while doing absolutely nothing but the opposite. Biden has been shutting down pipelines and creating mountains of irregular policies to burden producers with, while he's going off and saying that, companies like ExxonMobil and stuff are actually the real bad guys. They're gouging people. Also, it's Putin's price hike. Don't forget that, too. It's everyone. Oh, the shipping companies, also the conglomerates. The shipping conglomerates are to blame. Not Joe Biden. Not Joe Biden. Not the Democrats. Not the White House. Not D.C. It's not their fault. They're just as big a victim as you are. Meanwhile, the companies, these oil companies, are repeatedly coming out and being like, guys, we want to produce more, but you're not letting us. There's so much that you could do to help us get oil and gas to the people, but you're not. You're standing in our way directly. None of these things the Democrats are doing makes sense from a logical perspective. Nothing they're doing actually helps anyone except corporations that go along with whatever scheme Democrats have hatched today. The people will suffer under a boot of high costs and high crime. The nation will continue to dwindle in wealth and power as it spins its own people into oblivion. And moreover, it will punish these same people for not being able to hold its bloated government up. If you wanted to collapse a nation, this is how you would go about doing it. The Democrats are a party infested with anti-American radicals, and it shows. And this is, again, I want to make this clear. This isn't something that I'm just saying because, I'm not a fan of Democrats. I'm not just saying this just because I'm a conservative, libertarian. Okay, I'm saying this because if nothing makes sense that they're doing. Pick an issue. Pick an issue. The closure of the Keystone XL pipeline. It would have been the most clean way, the cleanest way to transport oil from north to south. All right, this was admitted by government officials, including John Kerry. It would have been much cleaner to have that pipeline. But they shut it down for environmental reasons. But they have no proof to say that it would actually help the environment at all. In fact, research suggests that it's dirtier to have trains and trucks transport this oil. More dangerous, certainly. There's nothing that says that oil pipelines are bad for the environment. In fact, everything says that they're cleaner. The Afghanistan withdrawal doesn't make any sense. They pulled out the military before they emptied the bases of all the materials and supplies and weapons and vehicles. They didn't warn the people who live there The Americans who live there, who work for the state, to get out, they just withdrew the military. It doesn't make any sense. Why would they do that? Oil and gas. Doesn't make any sense that they continue to pile on red tape after red tape after red tape, mountains of red tape, to effectively handcuff our oil industry behind its back so that they can't provide oil and gas right here and now. It would help solve a lot of problems. It definitely would. And yet they're not doing it. The border. Why are they keeping the border open when 100,000 people are dying from fentanyl? You have crime increases all over the nation. People hate it. People hate being invaded by these people from from these illegal immigrants. They hate it. You know how I know everybody hates it? Because Greg Abbott sent a whole bunch of them to D.C. and D.C. can't stand it. They want to send it back. Doesn't make any sense. Why are you not trying to stop this problem at the border? Why are you not taking 87,000 people and hiring them to the border patrol agencies instead of the IRS? Doesn't make any sense. Here's what does make sense. This is absolutely true. It is absolutely clear at this point because they have admitted it themselves. And if you look at their candid moments, what they tweet out and stuff, I mean, the Democrat Party is infested with radicals. It's infested with radicals. Anti-American, many of them pro-communist or socialist. Bernie Sanders, AOC, Ilhan Omar, all these people who are just rah-rahing it up for a collapse of the current American system so that they can implement something that has never worked, ever. And those are just the people who are front-facing. I'm not talking, if that is how they are talking up front, imagine how they're speaking in back. In the shadows, the people you can't see, the unelected bureaucrats, the aides, the speech writers, the advisors. It's scary to think about it. Right now, the halls of power are infested with radicals. Nothing that I talked about just a second ago makes sense unless you look at it through the lens of a radical. You know, they say these things in college and universities and stuff about how, you know, X, Y, and Z needs to happen. And then we're always like, well, how does that make any sense? It doesn't make any sense. Logically, nothing that you're advocating for really kind of pans out in reality. Those same kind of people now roam the halls of Washington. And they still haven't come up with a good reason as to why anything they do or think is logical, why the things they advocate for are logical. But all these radicals are authoritarians. They think that big government is the best government. And they don't think that they have to be answerable to you, you American peasant. You're a racist pig anyway. Fall in line, or else. When you start to look at it through that lens, you start to understand the Democrat Party a little bit better. The Democrat Party, and this is not a tinfoil hat moment, the Democrat Party actively wants to disassemble America for what it is right now and rebuild it in their image. They look at China, they look at Russia, they look at the Soviet Union, and they look at that stuff and go, a lot of good ideas there. If we're truly to implement utopia, we need to be able to seize control of America. We need to do away with their rights, the rights of the people. We need to tax and spend. We need to do all this stuff to reach a better period of human existence. Because they truly believe that they can. It's very hubristic when you think about it. But that's the kind of people that they are. If you wanted to destroy America, you would do exactly what they're doing right now. Exactly. You would collapse it and remake it. Here is where I'm going to, and this is just me being my my overly optimistic self. I think that this is probably going to end up hurting Democrats more than it's going to help. I think that if Republicans are smart, and some of them do appear to be, they will hammer on this and hammer on this and hammer on this, never letting it go. Election ain't that far away. They can keep this fresh in people's minds more or less. And nothing pisses people off more, the American people more, than having their wallet attacked. It's why typically during an election, whenever an economy is doing badly, the party in power is blamed and the other party wins. When it's doing good, that party tends to stay in office. I think it is interesting that they try to enact this to happen after November. We'll see what happens. But I do think that Democrats, they might be moving the Overton window a little too fast here. They might have jumped the gun. We'll see. We'll see. It's a chess game. And we'll see how good Republicans are at this. Pray. Get out there and vote and pray. Because this IRS thing, this climate bill is probably one of the worst things in modern history. I'm worried. I'm worried. But it's nothing we can't defeat. Save your skins, hold the butt stuff. Say you are straight and you get the pox. I kind of understand how that would make a straight cis male weary of even going over to the doctor over it due to the ridicule. I can understand that too, but I mean, it's monkeypox, you know. Like, who are you gonna tell? Afghanistan was on purpose. There is no way that was an accident. It was on purpose, Andrew. It was on purpose because he was advised against doing that by many people, and he still did it anyway. It was on purpose. Afghanistan, or that, you know, thinking about how these fools run the country, it might be for the best that we haven't gone full nuke power yet. They'd find a way to make a mess of it. Man, I don't know about we have nuclear weapons, so it's like if they really wanted to make a mess, they could. Now, given, you know, I could see your point. If we were to build nuclear power facilities all over the nation, they would probably regulate and do all sorts of stuff to make them operate at like way less efficiency and probably become more dangerous over time. So you might be right on that, but still, it's just silly to destroy miles of land for wind farms and solar farms with toxic products, by the way, because those solar farms especially are toxic. And then they would cost us an arm and a leg to build these things at the rate that they want us to build them. It's just a bad time. This other show this morning played an old recording of Calvin Coolidge where he was warning us about the growing government and us having to work a part of our week just to fund the government. Too bad nobody listened back then. Reagan tried. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad that we've gotten to the point where we just... Remember when we used to go to war over just a little tax? What happened to that, people? I want Trump in 2024. I want a lot of people held accountable for the corruption, fired in prison. First one for me is Adam Schiff. Prison, no parole. I would love to see Adam Schiff. I would love to see a huge investigation. Just, man, can you imagine if we actually did investigate the United States government with any kind of seriousness? How many people would go to jail? How many fines there would be? I bet the layers that we would peel back would be... It would scare us. It would scare us how bad it got. I want a strong leader who will do those things. Oh yeah, that is the main problem, Brandon. They want everything. Yeah. I want a strong leader who will do those things. If it's Trump, fine. If it's DeSantis, fine. Just give us someone who's not A perpetual spineless cock. Yeah, 100% agree with that, noob. Whether it's Trump or DeSantis, just get the job done. And I trust both of those men to do it. I hope we get Trump and then go to terms of DeSantis. That would be a kind of a dream. Can you imagine 12 years of Republican rule, of like good Republican rule? Oh my gosh. You should call these in segments the White Pill Roundup. Get a pill, add some arms, and googly eyes with a lasso. I could create a little character in Photoshop. We need 4 years of Trump energy and then 8 years of DeSantis. Y'all like that, huh? Smash that like button! Thank you so much, Halfback, for reminding everybody. Smash that like button. Really helps me out with the algorithm. I mean, if we could get... The best case scenario would be like 4 years of Trump and 8 years of DeSantis. Just straight, I think. I'm not going to green energy. Don't get me wrong. I just think they'd find something to mess up, like you said. Oh, they probably would. They'd find a way. It takes like 15 years for a windmill to pay for itself, and its lifespan is around 20 years. Good God. See, it's just a bad idea. Look, I appreciate the idea of green energy, but I don't think green energy is where it needs to be yet to be actually good and cost effective in the United States. At some point in time in the future, we'll find out different ways to harness energy that don't affect the environment all that badly. But right now, the green energy that we have, it's just dog crap. It's bad. It's just bad all around. It's not cost effective. You have to destroy land, miles of land, to actually have something that powers a town. All right, it's not working out. And you have to keep pushing more and more toward it while making gas and oil more and more expensive. You just can't do that. And they want people to rely more on energy with these electric cars. No, it doesn't make sense. It does. Nothing they do makes sense. Unless you look at it through the lens of radicalism. That's just the way it is. Yeah, exactly. We're not ready to go full green. No, we have never been. Never. I spent last weekend with a vet buddy of mine and his lady driving around in a Tesla. It was the biggest pain in the ass. We got started 2 times and had to wait hours for the car to charge. Yeah, it sucks. Don't get me wrong. I would like to own a Tesla. I think it'd be cool, but I can't afford one. Did I miss anything? No, John, nothing. We didn't say anything really important. Geothermal and nuclear, baby. Geothermal and nuclear, baby. That's where it's at, man. I swore a lot about government. Yeah, Noob actually typed in things with stars on them. The coolness wears off as soon as your battery dies. Oh, I bet. I bet. It's just, we're not there. Even like the Tesla, if you look at it, a lot of the Tesla is a bunch of car batteries just kind of like linked together when you really break it down. And even those can be very expensive to build. And I think that from what I understand, you know, if one of those batteries goes out, your car pretty much is done. You have to have that battery like torn out, rewired. The system has to be rebooted and everything. It's a big pain in the ass. So at some point in time, we're going to get to green energy and electric cars are going to be great, but our technological prowess, we're just not there yet. We're not there yet. And I understand that, you know, it's going to take funding. It's going to take R&D. It's going to take time. But here's the thing. Let private companies do that. We don't need the government stepping in and doing it. It's nonsense. All right? Let R&D of companies do it. And whoever makes the best electric car in the long run makes the best electric car, they get rewarded. Let competition happen naturally. Let us evolve naturally. You know? Humans did a really good job of getting to the point where we are without government intervention for a long, long time. Back when the United States, when it began, had... I mean, it's almost like the federal government was a clerical position. Like, even the president, being the president was a clerical position. And we went ham on technological development. We can do things without government. We don't need it. In fact, too often, a government gets in a man's way. Get out of the way. Stop picking and choosing winners. Real fast, can I just show you guys something before we go? Because it cracks me up. Y'all remember Terry McAuliffe and that grill thing he did, the grill video? Y'all remember that at all? Grill Master McAuliffe? And he lost. He lost his election. I present to you Kathy Hochul on a grill. Sorry, guys. I'm coughing up a storm. Great day for a barbecue. Okay, can we talk about this for just a second, and then I'll let you go? First off, she's not barbecuing. She's just grilling. Okay? Also, have you ever, while you're grilling, for those of you who grill, have you ever worn all white next to a grill? Like you just came from like church, or you're going to church or something like that? Okay? And have you ever sat there holding a spatula, almost like, you know how like like you're nervous to touch something, you know, and so you kind of have that kind of like kind of look on your face, or like your body language just says that you really don't want to be doing what you're doing, or you have no idea about what you're doing. This is exactly what's going on right here. This woman has no idea what she's doing. She's not grilling. She's not grilling at all. Does she have a hot and cold area on her grill? This is fake. Why do Democrats, this is what the question I want to ask. Why do Democrats love to pretend that they're grilling? Do they really think that they're connecting with the American people by pretending to grill? She's clearly pretending. She's not actually doing it. It looks so sad and pathetic. It looks awkward. This looks like a brochure for like a cult. Like the all-white dress, the weird look on her face. She's such a weird lady, man. She's such a weird lady. The battery charger in the back for the battery in your car. Which wouldn't even charge a Tesla. I do like how they sound like a spaceship when it backs up. Teslas are kind of cool. I mean, let's face facts. Remember that song, It's Gonna Take Time and a Whole Lot of Money? Yeah. They have a generator that kicks on when you let off the gas and recharges the battery. Why can't the generator be turned around so it can produce its own power? I personally don't know the answer to that question, but I have actually driven a Tesla, and they did explain that to me, how the brake actually generates more power for you, which is pretty cool. But again, I mean, like, they can be improved upon, like you just suggested. But again, that's going to take more R&D, more development, more time. We'll get there. I just don't think we're there yet. We need to try hydro with the cars. I played enough Fallout to know that, you know, nuclear energy cars are probably a bad idea, but I mean, maybe they're worth a try. It is the gas that powers the alternator, which charges the battery. My eyes just rolled back so far back that I saw the inside of my skull. It's Terry McAuliffe all over again. I only wear white when I grill. I want the stains on me. This is as bad as Elizabeth Warren drinking a beer. Dude, that was so cringe. That one, the point she was like, I'm gonna go get a beer. They're so fake, man. They're so fake. And I'm not just mean Democrats, too. I mean, like, there's so many Republican politicians out there. They're like, dude, you're trying too hard. Stop. The eyes are creeping you out. Because they're dead eyes. This is a fake smile. For those of you who don't read facial body language or anything like that, this is a 100% fake smile. She actually doesn't want to be here. This is, for her, this is gross for her. She's not even, you know, never mind. Also, I'm pretty sure that patty isn't cooked. She's about to cook it. She is giving the hired cook a smoke break. It would be a battery charging a battery. It'd be batteryception. It's like an exhaust brake in a truck. You let off the gas and it like pulls you down to 25. When I first did that, when I first drove a Tesla, it freaked me out so bad. Letting off the gas was the same as putting on the brake, and I was like, oh god. It's a 100% electrical car, so you have momentum to charge the battery. Not only when you let off the brake, there has to be someone saying, can't make it self-sustaining. She isn't even holding the spatula correctly. Because she's never held a spatula in her entire life. She doesn't know how to do this. That's why I like more regular people getting into politics, because politicians suck. That's what I'm saying, guys. That's what I'm saying. We need term limits. You get term limits, you elect regular people, things will get a lot better. Guys, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today on this Monday that came too quick. I know it was full of bad news, but have hope. God's still in charge, man. It's the best way I can put it. But we also have an election just right around the corner. Get out there and vote. Vote accordingly. And make sure that Republican knows that he better be worth his weight in salt or he's gone. Or she. Make sure they understand that going in. They got a lot of work to do. A lot of cleanup to happen. And they better get to work day one. And there's a lot to do. And if they don't do it, we'll find someone else who will. Guys, follow me at Twitter on at the Brandon Morse. Follow me on Instagram at the Brandon Morse Live. My DMs are always open. Send me a message if you want me to talk about something. Go to redstate.com. Everything I've talked about is at redstate.com. Sign up for the VIP program. If you don't mind, it really helps us out. You can use promo code Morse on sign up. MRSE. I will see you guys on Wednesday. And hopefully by then we'll have some much better news. But in the meantime, smile. You're still winning. You're still winning. All right, guys. Much love. See you later. Peace.